Dear colleagues, thank you for contributing in our PRIBS study. This video is dedicated to go through the questionnaire and answer any possible questions that might cross your mind. Please note that this questionnaire is made of many sections and parts, so if you still have any questions, do not hesitate to contact us via email. The first part of the questionnaire is about the participants' socio-demographic characteristics, and we would like to emphasize that you will not show the participants this questionnaire. You will have to understand these questions and ask the participants yourselves and write down the answers. As you may see also, there are questions that are followed by an asterisk or small star. These are obligatory questions, so you will have to answer them. But if you see questions that do not have an asterisk, then they may be optional because there are some algorithms in this questionnaire, as we will see later on. So we will begin with the first part, which is the socio-demographic characteristics. As you see, we have the age, sex, height and weight, and the BMI. Please note the units that we use. So for example, the height is in centimeter, the weight is in kilogram, and the BMI is in kilogram per meter squared. It is your responsibility to convert the measurements into the correct unit. Please make sure you write down the measurements in the correct unit. We also have the ethnicity. We have given examples of each ethnicity. So if you see an Arab, they are Caucasian. If you see a person living with origins of the Black racial group, they are Afro-Caribbean. If you see, for example, a person living in Mexico or Cuba, they may be Hispanic. So please make sure you put down the correct ethnicity. After that, we have question number 7, which is the ASA grade. ASA is the American Society of Anesthetists. So this is a specific grading system that grades people into their level of health or disease, of course. So you will need to understand each grade clearly and ask specific questions to the participants in order to obtain enough information to decide which grade is the most suitable for this participant. So you will not ask the patient themselves or the participant themselves what grade they are, because they will not know. So we'll have to understand, for example, that ASA 1 is a healthy person, they are not obese, they do not smoke, they have good exercise tolerance. You will have to understand, for example, that an ASA 3, for example, is a patient with severe systemic disease, but it is not life-threatening, while if it's life-threatening, it is ASA 4. So you will have to have a clear understanding and a good grasp of this ASA classification and ask enough questions to have the correct answer and put the participant into their correct grade. We have the country, the geographic location, the participant's highest educational level, and their workplace, and the field of work or profession. If you see these boxes, that means that question can have multiple answers. So this is a multiple answer question. And of course, we have the marital status or the state. We have the comorbidities, and also this is a multiple answer question. And we have to ask them how many years since they were diagnosed with their first comorbidity. Please note, if the patient has no comorbidities, you can put less than 1 year, or you can not answer this question at all because there is not an asterisk, so it's not an obligatory question. You can dismiss this question if there are no comorbidities. We will also have to ask them if they have a history of COVID-19 infection, and if we will need to ask them about their surgical history, if they have undergone open or abdominal laparotomy surgery. The second section of our questionnaire is about the diagnostic questions. So here we will ask the patient about some diseases that may be diagnosed. For example, hyperthyroidism, hyperparathyroidism, paralysis, celiac disease, and lactose intolerance, for example. And we will ask the patient if they have experienced abdominal pain in the last for at least 1 week in the last 3 months. The next question is a multiple answer question. We will ask them if they have experienced for at least 1 week in the past 3 months of any of these 3. Okay. Now the fourth question depends on question number 2 and 3. If the patient has answered yes to number 2 and has answered yes to 2 out of the 3, then the patient might be suffering from irritable bowel syndrome. Then we answer yes to this question. I will repeat. This question number 4, will not be asked directly to the participant. We will deduce it ourselves. How will we deduce it? If the patient or the participant answered yes to question number 2 and answered yes to 2 options out of 3 options of this question, then the patient has irritable bowel syndrome. Most probably, of course. We cannot be sure. Then we answer yes. If the patient answered no, then we put no in here too. Or if they put yes, but they answered only to one of these or none of these, we also put no. Question number 5, we are asking if they have experienced any of these in the past 6 months. Question number 6, we are asking if there is a history of diagnosis of irritable bowel syndrome in any family member, first-degree relatives. In the question number 7, please note we are asking if the participant thinks that they have irritable bowel syndrome. Sometimes patients have the perception that they have IBS. Somebody, maybe a friend or a relative or some of their acquaintances may have told them that they have IBS, so they may be convinced that they are suffering of the disease. So we are asking about this. If they say yes, we put yes. If they say no, we of course put no. So in the next question we follow up. Is this diagnosis is based on a clinical decision by a doctor? Is it a professional diagnosis, or is it just an assumption, a prediction? So we will need to make sure that the diagnosis of IBS is a clinical diagnosis made a professional physician. Question number 9 is asking the patient about epigastric pain syndrome. It is your responsibility to understand this disease and explain it well to the patient in order for them to be able to answer it. Also, we will ask them if they have experienced the syndrome for 3 months or more. Again, question number 11, we will ask them about the postprandial distress syndrome. You will have to explain this disease and its symptoms to the patient and ask them if they suffer from it and if they have suffering from it for more than 3 months. Also, we will need to have this grading system in here. It's asking about the following symptoms. How many days in the past week did you experience the following symptoms? We have these 6 symptoms or the 6 criteria. We will not ask the patient to put the number themselves. We will tell them we have 4 options: 0 days, 1 day, 2 to 3 days, 4 to 7 days. So the patient, for example, if we ask them how many days in the past week did you feel that you have burning behind your breastbone, if the patient says 3 days, we put number 2. For example, in nausea, if the patient says that they had nausea for 1 day, we put number 1. If they says that they have taken additional medication for their heartburn or regurgitation for 5 days, we put number 3. In the end, we will need to add up the score to end up with a total score of 18. The range is from 0 to 18, but please pay attention. Question number 3 and 4 will need to be reversed. So, if the patient has said if the score is 0, we will need to reverse and put 3 in the final calculation. If the patient in nausea said 1, we will need to put 2 in the final calculation. So as we have written, questions number 3 and 4 are negative questions. For statistical reasons, we need to reverse the score. If the patient said 0, we put 3. If the patient said 1, we put 2. If the patient said 2, we put 1. And if the patient said 3, we put 0. The questions 1, 2, 5, and 6, they are positive questions. So we put the final score as it is. If it's 0, we put 0. If it's 1, we put 1, and etc. But question number 3 and 4, we reverse them. 3 is 0, 0 is 3, 2 is 1, and 1 is 2. After we do this reversing process, we add up the scores and end up with a score ranging from 0 to 18. The next section is about lifestyle and physical activity questions. You will need to have a good understanding of these questions, and you will need also to make sure that the patient or the participant is understanding what you are asking. You may need to give them examples. So we will see. First of all, we will ask the patient if they are involved in vigorous intensity activity that causes them to have increase in heart rate or breathing difficulty, or at least increase in breathing. So if they do not understand, or if you may feel that the participant may need clarification, give them an example. For example, carrying or lifting heavy loads, digging or construction work, or any other example that you may see suitable. So we will ask them if they are involved in such activity for at least 10 minutes continuously. Now in this section we have an algorithm. If the patient answers yes, we continue question 2 and 3. If the patient answers no, we jump to question 4. So you see this is an obligatory question, but number 2 is not obligatory, it's optional, and number 3 is optional. Why? Because if the patient answered no to question number 1, we will delete question number 2 and 3. But if they answered yes, we will ask them question number 2 and 3. Also in here, question number 4, if it's yes, we continue. If it's no, we jump to number 7. The same thing with question number 7. If it's yes, we continue. If it's no, we jump to number 10. And this is the case in this entire section. You will see in here, we have also an algorithm, and in here we also have an algorithm. Please make sure you put the calculations and the measurements in the correct unit. So if you're asking the patient of how much time they are spending, for example, in vigorous intensity activities, you will answer in minutes, not hours, not days, in minutes. Please pay attention. In here, we are asking the patient how many days are they involved in moderate intensity activities. We will answer in a number of days, not minutes. So we have put these units in red for you to make sure you are putting the measurements in the correct unit. And the entire section is like this. We're asking them about their lifestyle, their high intensity and moderate intensity activities. We're asking them about their physical movement, about their how they commute and how they move to places. For example, how they go to work, how they go for shopping, or to a place of worship. We ask them, do they walk or use a bicycle for at least 10 minutes continuously? And we also ask them if they do recreational activities, or they are interested in sports or fitness. And we will need to ask them about these questions with giving examples. Whenever you feel in this section that the patient or the participant is not very clear about the question, give them clarifying examples. We also finally ask them about sedentary behavior. We will ask them how much time they usually spend sitting or reclining in a typical day. So this is a sedentary lifestyle. So in a lifestyle that there's no movement in it, it's only sitting. Of course, we'll also need to pay attention to the unit. The unit is in minutes, not hours, not days. Please put the measurement in minutes. The next section is about the perceived stress scale. Please make sure in this section that you become patient with the participants and become flexible. You will need to understand that these questions may be somewhat sensitive and personal, so we'll need to be considerate and give the patient enough space for them to answer. But beware, do not give them too much time. Do not let the patient or the participant think a lot about the answer. Let them answer it quickly and be over with the section in as little time as possible. So, in this section, you will need to be considerate and flexible with the patient's emotions, but do not give them too much time. Let them go through these questions quickly. In the beginning of the questions, you will need to explain to the patient or participant we have these options: never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, and very often. So the patient or participant will answer with one of these words. They will not answer with a number. You will convert the word to the number. Don't let the patient to answer you with numbers 0, 1, 2, 3. No. Let them answer you with never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often. For example, we are asking the patient if they have been upset in the last month because of something that happened, if they felt nervous or stressed, if they have felt that things were going their own way, so they were okay, they were all right. Question number 8, we have asking if they have felt they are on top of things, everything is under control. We are asking them if they have felt there are difficulties that are piling up so high they could not overcome them. So as you see, these are psychological, emotional questions that need some space. If the, after all these questions, the patient or the participant should have answered to all of them. All of these questions are obligatory. You will need to convert these words to the numbers 0 to 4. Just like the previous column or the previous measurement, we also have questions number 4, 5, 7, and 8. These are negative questions, so we need to reverse the scores. If the patient answered with never, you put number 4. Okay, if the patient has answered almost never, it's 1, you put number 3. If it's sometimes, you put, if it's almost never, so number 1 is 3. And if they said it's sometimes, it remains number 2. Fairly often, you put number 1. And if they said very often, you put number 0. So as we've said in here, number 4, 5, 7, and 8 are reversed negative questions. If the answer is 0, put 4, 1, put 3, 2 remains 2, 3 put 1, and 4 put 0. After these calculations, please add up the measurements and give them a score ranging from 0 to 40. And also, after you have the score, you will need to classify the patient into low stress if they have a score between 0 to 13, moderate if the score is between 14 to 26, and high perceived stress if the score is between 27 and 40. Also in here, in the last section, or the previous last section, we have the shoulder fatigue scale. It is very straightforward. We ask the patient to answer these questions with these words: less than usual, lower than usual, more than usual, or much more than usual. We have 10 questions. We need to ask the patient, 11 questions we need to ask the patient. And after we do the calculations, there are no negative questions in here. They are only simple calculations. We add up the score and give them a score out of 33. In this section, we are asking them about their diet and weight. We are asking them about their food pattern. Do they eat mostly fatty food or carbohydrates or protein food? We are also asking them about their food restrictions. If there are any foods that they need to avoid because they have some disease. For example, they may be lactose intolerant and they avoid milk products. Maybe they have celiac disease and they avoid white bread. So if they have any food restrictions, we'll put them in here. If there are none, we put none. We ask them if they have snacks between the main meals, and we ask them how many liters of water they drink a day. Please put the measurement in liters, not cups, not milliliters, not any other unit. And finally, we are asking them about their habits. We will ask the patient if they are a smoker. According to the WHO, please make sure a smoker is a person who uses any type of tobacco, either daily or occasionally. Daily, of course, is the person who smokes or uses tobacco every single day, at least once. The occasional is the person who smokes but not every day. The ex-smoker is the person who used to smoke but quit. And the non-smoker is the person who has never smoked. The same thing with the alcohol drinking, not drinking or drinking in moderation or binge drinking or heavy use. Next to each other in these parentheses, we have put the definition. So what does mean a person is drinking in moderation? It is 2 drinks or less in a day for men, or 1 drink for women. What is heavy drinking, for example? It means more binge drinking for more than 5 days in the past month. We'll also ask them about their sleeping hours. We ask them if they drink any stimulants. This is a multiple answer question: tea, coffee, mate, energy drinks, and others. We will ask them how much they consume these stimulants. And finally, we will ask them what is the delay between dinner and bedtime. So how many hours before bedtime do they have their dinner? And this is our full questionnaire. We need to emphasize this questionnaire will not be shown to the participants. You will need to have full grasp on these questions and ask the patients and participants the precise and suitable questions in order for you to have enough information to fill out this questionnaire. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us via email, and we would like to thank you for participating with us, and we would hope your experience becomes a suitable and enjoyable experience with us. Thank you for participating.